Now let's talk about how to convert the relationships into relations. Okay, relationships into relations. Relationship is a term from the ER diagram, and relation is the term in the relational database. So just to not to have this ambiguity, let me call relationship and table. Okay, relationship means in the ER diagram, table means in the relation. Okay, now let's talk about the relationships, how to convert it into tables. So let me take an example, it will be easy for us to understand it that way. Let us say there is employee entity type it is, okay, and there is a relationship, and employee is related to department, and here the relationship is, let us say, managers, which means an employee manages a department, right? Now what type of this participation is it? One to one. The reason is an employee can manage, let us say, according to the rules defined, the semantics of this database from the requirement analysis, an employee can manage only one department, and every department has to be managed by exactly one employee, and every department should have the manager, right? Therefore an employee can manage only one department, but it is not necessary that every employee has to manage a department. Among all the employees, there will be some managers and some of them will not be managers, right? Therefore all the employees will not participate in this relation, which means all the employees will not manage any department, right? Will not manage the department. Some of them will manage. Therefore from this side the participation is partial. From the other side, every department has to be managed by an employee. Therefore every department will have a manager here. So from this side the participation is total, right? And just for the sake of example, let me take few attributes here. So one attribute is employee number, and say other attribute is employee name, okay, and employee number is the primary key for this. For the other side, let us assume that there is one attribute which is department number, and one more attribute which is department name, right? And assume that department number is a primary key, right? And now we have this relationship which is actually one to one, okay. Now since these two are strong entities, right? They must already be having their own tables. So there must be a table already created, because in the step 1 itself we have already discussed about what to do about the entities. The strong entities, tables are created, right? Now step 2 discussed about the weak entity. Here there are no weak entities, both are strong entities, which means both must already be having tables. So one table for employee must already be existing, and it is having employee number, which is the key, primary key, and employee name. These are the two attributes which are already present in this table, and the name of the table is employee, right? So instead of calling it as a relation, I am calling it as a table. Otherwise this relationship and the relation, you might get confused. And now I am going to use other table which is already created for department, okay, which is having department number as the primary key, right, and the other attribute is department name. Fine. Now in order to represent this relation, the best method is take the primary key of one side and include it as the foreign key on the other side. You can do anyways, which means you can take this primary key and include it as the foreign key here, or you can take this primary key and include it as a primary key here. Anything you can do, but the best thing is do the inclusion on the total participating side, which means since department is totally participating in this relationship, it is better that you include the primary key of this one as the foreign key of that one, which means it is better that you include this employee number here, right? And make sure that this one refers this. This is how you can represent that relation. Now that relation is included by this foreign key. Got it? And having this name as employee number here is actually a bit not conventional, or it is not meaningful. So it is better that you change the name of this attribute to manager, right? Let us say manager. So what does it mean? It means that whatever values you are going to write here should already be present here. Every employee can be a manager there. Only an employee can be a manager there. Therefore, referential integrity has to be maintained, right? So why do you think that we have chosen to add the primary key of this side as the foreign key into total participating side? Since this is partial participation and it is total participation, I told you that the total participating side we are going to do the update. Why do you think it is true? Why do you think it should hold? The reason is, if I add this particular entity on the total participating side, then for every particular department this will be containing some value. Because the reason is, department is defined in such a way that every department should have a manager, isn't it? Therefore, for every tuple of department, definitely there will be a manager. That is the semantics of the database, right? But if I try to include this department number on this side, then the problem is, if I write the department number here, then every employee might not manage a department. Therefore, for most of the employees, we might get null. Let us assume that the number of departments are 2 and the number of employees are 100. Then if I include this department number here, 98 entries will be null. Only 2 entries will contain the department. On the other side, these two, let us say there are 2 departments. These 2 departments will have the actual values here, right? Therefore, it is better that you always have it on the side where the participation is total. Got it? And the second thing is, what if this relationship itself is having some attributes? Let us say there is an attribute here, and the attribute is start date. Start date means what is the date in which this manager has started managing this department. In case if this relationship is also having some attributes, then add this attribute on the total participation side itself, which means you take the start date and you add it to the same side, start date. Got it? So this is how you deal with one-to-one relationships. So this step actually deals with one-to-one relationship. Okay, only this type of relationships. So how are we dealing it? We are not going to create any new table for the relation. We are going to take the relationship and we are going to add on one side the foreign key, which is going to refer to the primary key of the other side. Anything you can do, either you can add it this side or that side. It is better that you add it in the total participating side, because if you do it that way, you need not waste the space. Got it? And in case if you have any more attributes, you are going to add the attributes also to the other side, the total participating side. Got it? In case if it is like this, let us take one more example. Let us say there is an entity, person name, and then there is an entity which is called license card. Okay, now what I want to do is, this is relationship holds, which means the person is holding a relationship. And let me say the semantics of this database are like this. From the requirement analysis, let us say they said that every person is supposed to have the license, the driving license, and they are supposed to have only one driving license. Then what happens is, this is going to be total participating, which means every person will be holding a license, right? And moreover, a license will never occur without a person. Therefore, both sides it is total participation, right? And assume that it is one-to-one, which means a person cannot have more than one license, and moreover, a single license cannot be held by more than one person. So it is a one-to-one relation in which the participation is total. So participation is total means, okay, see this. This cardinality says how many maximum relationships in which a particular entity can participate, right? Therefore, it is saying that maximum a person can participate in only one relationship, right? And the total says, this total participation says how many minimum entities in relationships that this particular person, that this particular entity can participate. It is saying that minimum is 1. When maximum is 1 and minimum is 1, you can, on both the sides, you can easily derive that on both the sides definitely the number of tuples are equal, the number of entities are equal. Think about it. We are going to have relationship like this. See this, we are going to have relationship like this, right? Now for every person there is going to be a license, and for every license there is going to be relationship, and this is possible, and moreover a single license cannot be held by two people, right? This is possible only when the number of persons and the number of cards are equal, isn't it? So whenever there is total participation with one-to-one relationship, with one-to-one cardinality, you can think of, you can what I can say, derive that the number of entities here is equal to number of entities here. So in this case you can use the same method, which means you can have the person table and you can have the license card table, and you can include either the license number here or person ID here, and you can make the other side refer to it because both are total, or a better method is you join both of them. That is even better, right? So in case of this one-to-one relationships, whenever the participation on both the sides is total, you could even combine both the tables without having two tables. That is even better, right? So what happens is, now when you combine both the tables, right, then for every person, see this, already we have person table, right? This is the person table because it is a strong entity, and already we have license. Let us say license is a strong entity and it is not a weak entity. Then we are going to refer these two, we are going to combine these, two tables, and we are going to put the two tables in one table, right? So this really makes sense because we are not actually adding any more space. So anyway we have to save all the license entries, and anyway we have to save all the person entries, and saving them together is actually not any extra space. Instead of having them separately and then adding one more attribute, combine them without any attribute. Easy, right? Now what happens if you have done the same thing here? If I try to combine them, what happens is, see, whenever I combine two tables, then the total attributes are going to increase, right? So that resulting table is going to have attribute employee name, employee number, department name, everything, right? Now when I combine these two, then the problem is for most of the employees, these two attributes will be empty because only some of the employees are managing the departments. But then here when I combine these two, let us say it is having person ID and person name, and it is having a license number and let us say license date, something like this. Now when I combine these two, every cell will be filled up because a person is having person ID, person name, license ID and license date, right? But here an employee may not be managing a department, right? Only for two employees, like in earlier example, only for two employees if they are managing the departments. Then when I combine these two tables, what happens is only those two particular employees will get the department details filled up and all the others will have null, right? So in case of one-to-one relationships, if it is total participation on both the sides, better you combine both the tables, right? Because here the total number of tuples this side and this side are equal, and there is actually a one-to-one mapping, so you can easily combine them appropriately, that particular one-to-one, right? But here in case of one-to-one relation, if the total participation is only on one side, you modify that side. Got it? So these two are the best known practices. So here it is up to you whether you choose to combine them or add the foreign key. It is up to you, right? So anyway, combining them is actually taking less space, isn't it? Because you need not add one more extra attribute here, right? So this is the best one. Here don't combine both of them, have one more attribute. Got it? Okay, fine.